Welcome to Scatterbrained, a weekly subpod of mind controllers where we chat about what we've been playing this week and maybe a few other things we've enjoyed. I'm your host, Brandon Craw, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Joe Moreno.
And today, we have something kind of different planned. We got sent some interview questions, and we're going to go through these on the pod. Let me first start off by saying that these interview questions were sent to us by an Instagram account called Video Games Journalist. Definitely go and check them out. They've been putting out some pretty interesting interviews and discussions, reviews. They kind of do it all. I believe it's just one person. I'm not too sure, but for just one person, they're doing a lot of work. I really enjoy everything that they've been doing. So give them a follow. They were curious about some questions about like video games and psychology, and then also wanted to talk about psychology of like cozy video games. So they sent us over a list of questions, and we're gonna go ahead and like go through them. And then if we have some time at the end, maybe we'll talk about what we've been playing. But spoiler alert for me, it's been more Elden Ring, and that's kind of it. But I see,
Gotcha.
Joe, you have some more things to chat about.
I got a small list going on here,
Yeah. But awesome. So, yeah, I think without further ado, we'll just jump right into these questions if you're ready for it, Joe.
I'm good. Let's do it.
So the first question we received was, do you believe the hands-on nature of video games helps us connect more psychologically with the characters compared to other mediums? Joe, do you want to start off? Like, how do you, we should have talked about this before, of like the flow of who should go first. Maybe we could take turns. Maybe I'll start this one, you start the next one.
Let's do it. I can get into it. So for me, I would say, I believe the hands-on nature of video games does help us connect psychologically with the characters. Take like Persona 3, where we take like a character who is kind of like an empty slate, right? But he's got his own personality. He's kind of sassy as well. Like you can see it in the dialogue options, right? And so the idea is you're able to identify with the character and make choices that, maybe I would make or maybe he would make, right, in the given scenarios. I'm also aiding this protagonist in making bonds with other characters, and they'll react accordingly, right? They'll be happy, sad, upset, At the end of the day, though, this is just numbers, right? Zeros and ones on a disc, on a PS5 disc, right? But it means so much more because we're able to control the protagonist, right? Through the triumphs and turmoils, through the bosses, and like I mentioned last time, Persona 3 was a lot about death, right? Through this heartache, through so much, so many challenges, right? That's something no other media would give you because this is hands-on, right? I'm controlling the character. Every time we hang out with a friend, every time we go and grind levels, every time we defeat a boss, right? It's me controlling the character. Movies are great. TV shows are great. Books are great, but does it provide that, right? That hands-on nature of like, hey, I'm controlling, I'm seeing the story, I have an impact, right? It's not like that. So for me, I would agree with like, the hands-on nature does help us connect more psychologically with the characters. Definitely. What about you?
Yeah, no, I totally agree there too. I think we chatted about this in our horror episode. We've done a couple now, but in the first one with the Dead Space. And there's like some research done regarding like players and the avatars or like the characters that you play as. So you feel like you're a part of the game. You feel like you're inside the game because you're controlling this avatar, and you have like, you're kind of giving them agency and independence, and you make these choices on their behalf. You could control them to, fight for you, defeat enemies and bosses, and achieve these big, amazing accomplishments. So you're kind of like deciding the fate of these characters. And I think that helps you connect maybe a bit more, maybe feel a bit more identified and personalized like these characters compared to something like a TV or film character. But I also don't want to discredit like those mediums because I do watch a lot of TV and watch a lot of film, and I love both of those. But yeah, video games, I think that there's just that little bit extra like personal touch to playing them that helps you feel a bit more connected with everything that's going on in that world. And because of that, I think to answer your question with a simple word, yes, video games do help you connect more psychologically.
Gotcha. Okay. And I'll move on to the next one. So is video game addiction a real threat? You want to take it away?
Yeah. Oh man, I was actually going to suggest that you start this one, but you know what? You probably. I feel like you have more experience with like the any sort of addiction treatments and stuff like that more than I do. Mine answer I feel like is pretty simple. Like anything that can provide you joy or happiness, or kind of cause that like dopamine rush, there's a chance of addiction. So with video games, some people might use video games as a coping mechanism, and that results in kind of avoiding other responsibilities. Kind of one of the loose clinical definitions of addiction is if it's like harming you or others. So, that's still going to apply here too. If like you constantly playing video games is hindering other aspects of your life, then that's when it starts becoming a problem. So,
Right.
I think video game addiction is definitely a real threat. But yeah, Joe, I'm curious to know like what you have to say about it. And has this come up at all in your line of work of video game addiction?
I can see right here. I see my line within my line of work. Yeah, I've seen this with certain clients, right? That they'll spend like 12, 14, 15 hours, playing video games. And the approach we take is more harm reduction. When it comes to substance, right? The video games aren't a substance, but in a way, like harm reduction is like, let's say someone is drinking 10 times a day or smoking 10 times a day. All right, let's reduce that 9 times a day. Now 8. It's September. What do you want it to be at? 5, 4 times a day, right? So we're reducing that harm, right? And it's real. I've seen it with clients that I work with. It's not the focus of our sessions, right? It's in the background though.
Okay.
Right. And then I went into looking, into like reports and kind of research articles. Here it says, psychophysiological mechanisms underlying computer game addiction are mainly stress coping mechanisms, emotional reactions, sensitization, and reward. Computer game playing. He's like this old language. Computer game playing sounds so weird. May lead to long-term changes in the reward circuitry that resemble the effects of substance dependence. And this is by Weinstein, 2010. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? This is like you said. This is something that makes you feel good. Something that increases dopamine, serotonin, right? And this can become a way of coping, right? To a point where it's like, hey, it's my main stress. This is how I deal with stress. But then it becomes dependent. You become dependent on it, and then maybe you become addicted to it, right? And it becomes an issue as it gets in the way of like, hey, I got to go to school, or I got a job, or I got to keep that doctor's appointment. It can become an issue. I think it is a real threat.
Yeah, totally agree. And like any sort of threat or addiction, don't feel like you're alone in it, and don't feel concerned about seeking help, because I feel like most people who are trained to treat these types of addictions, they're not going to just like laugh this off. I feel like video game addiction might sometimes it's like it felt like it was a buzzword maybe like a decade ago or so. I don't know. I felt like there was this really big anti-video game movement at some point, at least during my lifetime, and this was like tossed around there. And some people might have been over-exaggerating with their use of video game addiction, but, there is like a clinical definition for it, and you could definitely seek help for it. No definitely. Shame in that.
Just with anything, it's about moderation, right? It's like, if you're spending too much time on it, then maybe it's time to change some things up, right? And, therapists can help you with that as well.
On to the next question. Are there any psychologically proven health benefits to video gaming?
Okay, so I'll take this one.
Yeah.
So I did a research paper back in 2017 during my undergraduate, and discovered a CBT, like computerized CBT, by the name of Sparks. And what that is, it's like a computerized self-help program for the treatment of depressive symptoms, using the medium of a fantasy world where like you make your own avatar and you're given a series of challenges, right? You're going through like the world of gloom, right? And that stands for like, it's supposed to be like depression, right? There's a world where it's like you see, like negative coping mechanisms. Okay, how can we, make them positive? What can we do as alternatives, right? So it's like you're traveling the land trying to fix the world essentially, right? And on the way, you're learning tips and tools to help your own, depression, to alleviate it, to reduce symptoms. It's something pretty cool, and that's like it got me into like looking into how video games and how can we integrate video games and therapy moving forward. I've heard of like Dungeons and Dragons groups that are like therapeutic. Some therapists I've seen like in Texas, there's like Animal Crossing groups, Minecraft groups as well.
No way.
On the East Coast, yeah, there's a lot more on the East Coast than there is on the West Coast as well.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's
Animal
really cool.
Crossing therapy group. Wow.
Yeah. I don't know if that's still going on, but I'm pretty sure during the peak of COVID, it was pretty big. So yeah, we're talking about a video game that is, I guess its purpose is to, aid with depressive symptoms. This is a benefit, right? But like regular video games, that would be, I will let you take that because I know you talked about that a little bit more than I did.
I saw that psychologically proven, and like hearing proven, it's like, oh, I can't just talk about this off the cuff. I need to like find some research to support this. So that's what I went ahead and did. And I found research that was done in like a bunch of different domains and in terms of like how it affects people, and those are like cognitive, motivational, emotional, and social. There's even some research done on like a physically active video game where you're doing like physical activity, kind of like I was thinking Ring Fit Adventure, even though it didn't name a specific game. And they found that using like active video games as a form of like way to promote physical activity was more successful than trying to get someone to do just regular traditional exercise of like go outside, lift weights, go for a run or something like that. So video games can definitely help promote physical activity there. But for like a psychological standpoint, there was a recent study done, I believe it was like 2022, found 88% of participants in this cross-sectional survey had experienced emotional and psychological benefits of gaming. And they found that there was a certain genre of games that help promote these psychological benefits, and those were the music-based games. I'm assuming stuff like maybe like Rock Band or Guitar Hero or... Yeah,
DJ Hero.
Just those.
Remember that?
DJ Hero, Trombone Hero, or Trumpet Hero, whatever that funny one was. I don't know if you saw that one that went viral. It was like, I never played it, but so music games, RPGs, and then surprisingly, survival horror games were correlated with some of the greatest psychological benefits. But there was a certain genre that had the lowest scores for psychological and emotional well-being, and that was multiplayer online battle arena games, also known as MOBAs. So you think like League of Legends, or is Heroes of the Storm still around, or Dota?
Wasn't Smite one as well?
Oh yeah, Smite's one. And I think the reason these had the lowest scores was because of the toxic community, unfortunately. I think a lot of these people, especially when you play anything online, you're kind of inviting in, you don't know who you're inviting into your world when you're playing those games. And unfortunately, there are some toxic behavior that's found on there. I feel like we talked about that also recently during some fighting game. I think you were talking about how you were climbing the ranks in Street Fighter 6, and I was like, I got us a little sidetracked talking about toxic online players. But anyways, there are some psychological benefits to gaming, and there are also like some areas in which that could harm you in some ways, and better to just avoid those types of games, or at least avoid the toxic community there. If you love playing League of Legends, you do you and go for it. Yeah. I hope you aren't exposed to as much toxicity as like people make it out online. But that game, I think, is for some truly brave people. I've tried playing it once, and I was like, I don't want to get yelled at.
The closest I got to was Pokemon Unite, and even then, I was like,
oh shit,
I don't know about this.
Yeah, I forgot about Pokemon Unite. It was like a fun concept, but yeah. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the MOBA style. Same. I don't know. If I'm leveling up a character and stuff, I want that to be permanent. I don't want to have to do that every game. I don't want games to last long. I think the Pokemon Unite had shorter game times, but yeah, still. I didn't want to play it.
Sometimes the games would span like 10 minutes, and I'm like, dude, this is too long. I can't. And I can only imagine like League of Legends matches. I never watch. Yeah. But I know like what they consist of. Not for me. Okay, so next one, let's see. What video game characters do you both find interesting from a psychological point of view? Who would you like to talk through their trauma? So, I see. I mean, who comes to mind? Unless you want me to take
I know,
it.
right? No. It was this question like felt interesting because all of our I feel like a lot of all of our main episodes, like for mind controllers, we're talking about certain characters and stuff. So I think all of those characters we've spoken about previously, I find interesting. But there is one, maybe it's recency bias, but Alan Wake still like confuses the shit out of me, and I want to keep on talking to that guy and seeing what's going on with his world. Yeah, he, especially with all the trauma he's been through and the way he is manipulating the world, but almost like causing more trauma for himself. It's just, there's so many different layers to it. He seems like a wild dude. Would love to, I don't think it'd be a pleasant conversation, but I would love to just get inside his head a bit.
You're gonna have to fight. What was her name? Rosie?
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna have to fight her first.
Yeah, Rose will never let him alone.
So good luck with that.
Thank you. Yeah, tell me about who you were thinking of for this.
So this might be a meme answer for those Guilty Gear fans, but Soul Bad Guy, right? I even went onto the wiki. Like, how do I describe Soul Bad Guy? He's a cool guy. He's tough. He's strong. He's silent. It's like, I'm like, all right. So let's get into it, right? This is from the wiki. He's sullen and unrefined. Only speaks to others when absolutely necessary. Consequently, is not very good at expressing himself and tends to compensate by bullying people into line or simply steamrolling them. A lone wolf with a belligerent streak. He's actually extremely intelligent, and he was a scientist before he became, the gear, right? He's also quite stubborn. I just find him fascinating. His gameplay is fascinating, right? And then Guilty Gear lore is really crazy. I don't know if you've ever watched any Guilty Gear lore. If you have an hour or 2 hours to kill, anyone out there, I recommend just passively listening to Guilty Gear lore because it's wild. It just makes no sense, and it's a good time though. And I'm like,
is it crazy even for anime?
Oh yeah. It's very good. yeah. We're probably talking, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or even crazier than that.
JoJo's is pretty wild.
Yeah. Guilty Gear lore is pretty wild. There's a character called That Man, right? And we just refer to him as That Man. And magic lives in the backyard, or exists in the backyard. And it's what's the backyard? It's it's the a parallel world where magic exists. It's just wild, right? I might have even gotten that wrong, but I'm telling you, check out that Guilty Gear lore. I would love to talk to Soul Bad Guy. I mean, he doesn't speak much, right? But at the end of Guilty Gear Strive, I think he actually gives up his gear powers and he just goes back to being human again. So maybe that changed something. I don't know. But I would love to sit down and just see what I can get from this guy. Talk to him. Hey, what's going on? Because, again, there's some trauma up in that Guilty Gear lore.
That's fascinating. It sounds so generic. Also, his name's Soul Bad Guy. I was just did Joe just make this up? I'm no, it's probably some fighting game character. Yeah, it's Guilty Gear Fool.
Guilty Gear.
Oh man, I wonder if the bad guy last name is a self-fulfilling prophecy or anything, or if that is determined his personality there.
Honestly, I'm sure it's somewhere in the lore where he gets. Yeah, I think there is actually. I just don't want to get it wrong, but it's in there. Yeah.
Cool. Next question. Cozy gaming has recently become popular recently. Why do you think that is? I feel you still have a cozy game routine going on, so I'll let you start this one.
Yeah. So cozy games I think would extend also to simulator games. Using Power Wash Simulator is pretty chill, right? I mean, just washing stuff, right? Washing the dirt out of things, using soap, using different chemicals. Different nozzles, and is there something very calming about just working your way through a level, cleaning it, right? It could take hours. And then I know the question question after is asking Animal Crossing. So for me, I do have a routine with Animal Crossing. To me, it's a cozy game. It's something that I expect, it's going to be there day in, day out. Usually I'll play 20, 30 minutes at the end of my day or when I have a break. And I just do the chores, right? I collect the fossils, the weeds, or maybe I'll fish, say hi to the villagers, right? And then sell all that stuff, get my Nook miles, right? And then that's it. Log off for the day, right? Nothing. It's always the same, right? But there's something I think magical and kind of special about the music, the sound design, right? Just walking through the grass, Right? It's like crunchy, right? There's like a time when it's winter, like there's snow, right? And like it's even like the snow is very crunchy. Like like walking on snow sounds like. And like those sounds, I'm like, yeah, this is familiar. This is what I'm used to, right? Because it's not like I'm going out there to defeat a dragon. I'm not playing as Zangief trying to rank up or anything like that. It's just I'm checking in. It's kind of a way to decompress, and that's my cozy game is Animal Crossing. I know there's more like Stardew Valley, right? There are more farming games, or there is an objective in a way of like I got to sell these crops, I got to progress the day or progress, unlock something else. Which you do that in Animal Crossing as well. Don't get me wrong, but I've gotten to the point where it's like I've collected all the animals, right? I collect the bugs, the fish, the diving, like all of that. So it's just chilling. It's just like enjoying it for 20 minutes and then logging off, onto the next day.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how it is for other people as well with cozy games, but there's something special about just, kind of checking in and just winding down, especially if like you're just go the whole time, right? It's a way to just chill out.
Completely agree. I have not matched your playtime in Animal Crossing, but I think I have like around 400 something hours in there. So I definitely enjoyed it as well. And I think Animal Crossing was my go-to cozy game. Their sound design, like you mentioned, it was just so brilliant. Just everything about that game makes you feel comfortable and relaxed, and like you're just immersed in this world, this chill ass island where you got nothing to do but like catch bugs, catch fish, and talk to the other villagers. It was so nice, man. That first time, like that first month of when Animal Crossing New Horizons released, like at the start of the pandemic, was some of the like most relaxing, I think, moments of video game I've ever had. But
yeah, especially because we were in a grad program at that time.
Oh shit!
And that wasn't relaxing at all.
No, it felt like we had a week off, I think, in the program so that they could all figure out what the hell to do and how to teach school from here on out, especially since it was our last semester for at least the Masters of Clinical Psych portion. And I know you went on and like got the LMFT, right? Or the MFT.
The AMFT,
AMFT, yeah, sorry. Anyways, back to the question. Sorry, I am constantly getting us derailed here. Anyways, cozy gaming. Why is it popular? I think you've already touched on this. I feel like it's, this strong desire to feel comfortable, relax at the end of the day. This desire to relax comes from so many different things. That could be its own podcast in itself, but it just feels like everyone's day-to-day life nowadays as an adult, shit, even as a teenager, can be like so busy that you just want to do something mindless at the end of the day to kind of zone out, relax your brain, relax your body, and just immerse yourself into this comfortable world that doesn't really have like threat. Like there's not really any threat in Animal Crossing. I know there are some in like
tarantula and the scorpion, right?
Well,
and the bees.
Yeah, that's true. And the bees. Yes. Yeah. They're not like your enemies though. I know like Stardew Valley, that one's a bit more objective based, and you have like dungeons you could go through.
There's combat as well, right?
Yeah. There's a whole other system, and like I feel like I struggle to get into Stardew Valley because it feels a bit more objective based, even though I've heard it's more of a cozy game. I really want to play that game though. I wish I had time to just like completely dive into Stardew Valley, but pretty much like these games just offer a good way to de-stress, not worry too much about our own lives and not worry too much about what's going on in the game as well. Especially with Animal Crossing, they're not concrete objectives. It's just like, hey, whenever you happen to have like all these bells, go ahead and give it to me, and we can make your house a little bit bigger. Or we have these seasonal bugs and these seasonal fish. If you happen to catch them all by the end of the month, that's cool. But if not, they'll be here next year, and I know you will be too. So it's cool.
Right.
And yeah, just creating those little fun, relaxing tasks for you to do, I think also helps. It gives you a bit of agency over the game and how you're playing it. Pretty much, to sum it up, we have stressful lives, and cozy games help us de-stress. And I think that's why they're so big right now.
I agree.
It's a stressful time.
And this one is kind of similar, right? The next question.
Yep.
Why do you think games without a particular goal or ending are so popular now? AKA Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing, Roblox, Minecraft. Do you want to take this one first?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I already talked about it right now. They're therapeutic, I think, because we kind of create the objective or the tasks that we want. Like I said, it just gives us a bit more agency. And we also feel welcomed in this world. I know with like Animal Crossing and Stardew, you kind of feel like these people depend on you to live in the world, and they plan on you like interacting with them, helping them out with tasks, paying them back, buying things for them. And these are just kind of never ending. So you're always kind of feeling like you're needed. And that's kind of nice to feel like these people want you there and feel like you're welcomed here. And I think that's why it can be so popular.
To add on to that, I mean, a game like, Animal Crossing, Roblox, these games are, they have no end, right? They're infinite in a way, right? You could continue to level up, the shovel, right? Or make as many bells or collect Nook miles, right? These are like goals that you set on your own, right? No one else is telling you to, hey, go to the turnip stocks, right? And start selling, right? Do you remember that? I don't know if you ever did that. That was wild.
Oh, yeah.
On Discord.
I was in Discord chats. Yeah. I was like texting some of my friends. I'm like, all right, who got the highest bells this week? Oh shit, yours is at 431 a turnip. Okay, everybody go here. Let's sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I became a bell millionaire.
Right. That's the cozy lifestyle, right? But these are things that you do on your own, right? No one's telling you to hit up the turnip stocks, right? No one's like, hey, do it at your own pace, right? And I feel like Animal Crossing really hit us like during the perfect time during the pandemic, right? Because it was like we were stuck at home. It's like, well, what else are we going to do? We were in the grad program taking classes, right? It's like Animal Crossing was there. Like you can pop in there between classes, right? Hey, maybe during class, I'm not going to tell anyone.
Not if you had Victor.
Yeah. But it's something interesting, right? Because it's endless, right? Now that I'm, getting older, I prefer more games that do have an end goal, like a narrative, right? That has a beginning and an end, because it's like, yeah, I mean, our time is already so limited, with work and obligations, family life, everything, right? That I would just prefer to be like, okay, I start here, end here, right? Like Persona 3, 91 hours. Okay, I'm done. On to the next one, right? Even though that took forever, that took months. I just prefer that. But I think younger me would have loved Animal Crossing, because the first time I played Animal Crossing was during COVID, right? I think if I was younger, and because when you're younger, it seems like you have a lot of time, right? You just dive into there, kind of spend time, in Minecraft, Roblox, whatever it is, right? These games can serve as a time waster, but also, they can be cozy, right? And we're talking about coziness. They can provide some comfort, and I think that's why they're so popular. And the fact that they're, again, infinite possibilities, right? In Roblox, Minecraft, people create so many things like, what is that Pokemon mod for Minecraft? Things like Pixelmon or something like that.
Yeah.
It's wild.
That was so cool. Yeah.
And they still add stuff to it, right?
Yeah, especially like these blank slate games like Roblox or Minecraft that invite modders and stuff like that. That really feels like an endless possibilities there. So you could just like play so many different not mini games, but just games within that games, one game itself. Yeah. And I think that's why stuff like Minecraft and Roblox are popular. But next question, why do people play games that are torturously difficult? Yeah, Joe, you want to?
Let's start with this one. So there's no denying that there's a sense of satisfaction when defeating a difficult boss, especially in the From Software or Souls-like games, right?
Yeah.
Like a couple bosses that come to mind are Lady Maria of the Astral Clock Tower and Bloodborne, Star Scourge, Radon. I haven't got to the DLC, so don't at me. I'll get to it eventually. And then Sif in Dark Souls 1, which is like the dog, right? Which is not a difficult boss for everyone, but for me, I don't know. It's something about like just a big boss that towers over you. I don't know, it gave me a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But there's like an increase in dopamine and serotonin when we like defeat these bosses, right? Because especially if you're struggling, right? There's this, when you defeat it, you're hyped up. You're like, all right, I did it, right? Let's go. Right, because you can spend a lot of time on these bosses, learning the patterns, right? And you can still get unlucky, or you can still mess up. Maybe you got a little greedy, right, and ended up dying like when the boss only had a little bit of life left, right? And so these things, when you do defeat these bosses, like it's rewarding, right? And then of course I'm the fighting game guy, so I wanted to throw fighting games in here too, right? So like, let me give you a scenario in Street Fighter 6. So you keep losing to an opponent, right? It's 0 to 20, but on the 21st match, you take it. Right, so now it's 1 to 20. Right? I one time we were hanging out. I think we were recording Alan Wake. I got back home, And I walked in with my brother, like, playing Street Fighter, and he was at 1 to 20, and like that one victory meant so much to him because he was struggling so hard. He was ecstatic, he was elated, he was like happy, and then it was back to the ass whooping. Right? It was like, there we go, there we go. And it's like, nah, dude, quit while you're ahead, But he learned some things about his character, right? And he felt great that he was able to defeat this opponent, because there are some really good people. They take this stuff seriously. And what I like about this a little bit more than like the From Software games is like, I can take the skills I learn in fighting games and like apply it to other matches with other matchups, other people. From Software games, they change, right? Because like Dark Souls 3 is gonna be different than Bloodborne, right? Bloodborne's different than Elden. They just play differently. But there's no denying that there is satisfaction in playing something that is difficult and overcoming it, right? I mean, that's the main idea. That's the gist of it. And I know I wouldn't be playing Elden Ring if I didn't feel this way.
I know. Yeah. I totally feel the same way. It's funny that you say like about the Street Fighter thing and taking what you learn and applying it to a new match, because I was literally just thinking, I'm like, I feel like the Souls-like games are easier because the boss pattern doesn't change. Like, once you identify how to beat the boss, you can just do that every time. Whereas like when you're fighting against another player, they're playing like a different character. They might be playing the same character and have a different
play style.
Them.
You can figure people out, right? But it takes a couple of matches to do so, right? And when it's $1 million on the line and it's Capcom tour, you don't have that luxury.
No, it's not.
It gets real.
I guess this is my way. Yeah, especially with money on the line. This was my way of saying that I think fighting games are harder than maybe some FromSoft games.
I think learning fighting games can be very hard. I think once you got the rhythm down, right, and you know what you're doing, I think it gets a little easier. Again, I'm only like gold rank in Street Fighter 6, right? I just play a lot of fighting games like casually, so I might not know what I'm talking about, but I feel like I do.
Well, as someone who hasn't really played any fighting games, they sound hella challenging, but I think you kind of summed up how I was feeling about torturous difficulty, so we'll go ahead and like throw it to the next question.
That is on me. What does it take to make a perfectly designed game from a psychologist's point of view?
Yeah, so this one, video games are just so subjective already, so to have like one game that's like perfectly designed, it's kind of hard to really say what that would be. Everyone's going to have like a different idea of what they love about video games and what they really enjoy. So I think for me, my definition of something that's a perfect game, it's going to look something pretty close to Baldur's Gate 3, because I personally love RPGs and I love games that make you feel like the world is alive. And I think Baldur's Gate 3 does a great job at that, with making almost every choice you execute in that game have a consequence or have an effect on the world. Even like every dialogue choice can have a different outcome. So just some game that feels like you are in control of the world, but also like you're a part of the world, like the world is living, I think is like a perfect video game for me. Yeah, I could see another like response to this question of like a psychologically perfect video game, of one that is, we'll go back to the addiction to video games question. So one that is most addicting to the point where people are constantly coming back to play it. For some people, that might be like Fortnite, because I mean, it's sheer popularity games, there. Right? Gacha games, which we might talk about in a bit, depending on how long this goes. Yeah, so overall, I think a perfectly designed game is subjective, but one that feels fluid, feels alive is what's important to me. How do you feel, Joe?
No, I agree with you. Perfection is subjective, so I agree with you here. I don't think I've played a perfect game, right? They all have their flaws. For me, I prefer turn-based. I just like turn-based. I grew up with Pokemon, Golden Sun, right? So that, to me, awesome, amazing, right? But they're not perfect, right? But I welcome that, right? Because every game has a flaw, right? Just like anything else, right? And these are products of humanity. Like, we aren't perfect as people. No one can ever be perfect, right? But I think that's what makes them so appealing, right? It's you got so many strengths and you got some flaws here, right? Even games where there's tons of flaws, you might have some strengths here and there that you might enjoy. So I don't know if there would be a perfect game.
That's beautifully said. Wow. Just like people, that got me. Wow. We got philosophical, existential here, real quick, very accepting. I love that answer.
Well, you caught me during the day of work, so maybe I'm feeling that way too. Yeah. So for me, no perfect game, right? And then from a psychologist point of view, I always got to say, we're not psychologists. I'm a registered AMFT, but a game would have to be rewarding, right? Something to keep you coming back. For me, I mean, the Persona games come to mind. Mm-hmm. There are times where I'm like, maybe I should do a New Game Plus again, right? Or, because these are games that are just vibes. Like, you just show up, you know what you're doing. New Game Plus is always fun because you just steamroll through everything, and it's just a good time.
I mean, don't do that New Game Plus. We got 2.5 months until Metaphor, so we're almost there.
We're almost there. We are almost there. Yeah. But yeah, that's it for me. So let's see the next one. What makes a good psychological horror game?
Yeah, we also chatted about this previously in the psychological horror, or in the horror game in Dead Space Pod. Mm-hmm. But there were certain aspects, I think, from an article I found regarding game design in terms of like how to make the game like a good a good horror game. So First thing you need to do there, kind of slow down the pace, slow but steady pacing of the game so that you can like take in the world, feel immersed into the world, but also have a setting that makes you feel isolated from any sort of rescue that could come to bail you out. You need to feel alone. You need to feel like there's no way out and that you're the only hope of leaving. The level design also needs to be mostly, some narrow hallways, but also I know Dead Space likes to litter in some like a bit more open spaces, but even those aren't like huge open worlds. They're still relatively narrow and have like some brilliant like debris placed to block off certain things and make the spaces feel a bit more constricted. Audio is also very important since you don't want the game to be completely silent. You need to have some sort of like background humming, like a generator or like crickets if it's like an outdoor type game. But I think ultimately having the game feel unpredictable, but still just enough control to barely squeeze by while panicking is also what makes a horror game good to me.
Oh, yeah.
I also appreciate when games like they put you in a scenario in which like you're afraid to die in the game, but you don't yet. So like they just, I don't know, they keep you on the last limbs of your life, because I feel like the dying in a horror game is like the quote unquote worst thing that could happen in the game. But once you do that, then you kind of are like, well, I just experienced the worst thing, so whatever. I could just like reload the save and go back to it. So it doesn't feel quite as scary that second time you're playing through the level. So you want to make every experience feel novel. I think that's mostly it for me. I don't know. What's a good horror game for you, Joe?
So like I was talking about, I recently played through Silent Hill 2 and 3 with a friend about 2 months ago, right? Mm-hmm. And I think for a good psychological horror game, it's finding yourself in an area that's familiar. Right, so Silent Hill 3 takes place in like the beginning. It's like a dream, but eventually you're in a mall, right? In a mall, I mean, is it horrifying? Not really. That's where I get my, my Cinnabon and my agua fresca, right? And and you're just hanging out, right?
Yeah.
But Silent Hill takes it to another level where Silent Hill does its thing and turns it into this nightmare, distorts the world. There's giant enemies trying to kill you. There's like these dogs that are trying to kill you, right? And you're trying to bob and weave because, you don't got enough bullets to kill all those enemies. Mm-hmm. And so there's a sense of dread and fear that takes over, right? Because this is something familiar, the mall, right? Or maybe it's like LA during the day, right? And just now the familiarity is gone. It's something different, something you don't know, right? And it causes anxiety. And so I think Silent Hill 3, because of that, I was like, yeah, this is some good stuff. So I think for me, what it makes like, making a good psychological horror game or even a horror game in general is taking the familiar and twisting it, right, to something that you don't expect, something that causes dread, right? Because that's so uncomfortable. That's what I think.
That's aptly put, especially the familiar to making it unfamiliar. I think during that Dead Space pod, I remember finding some sort of article talking about the what makes a good like monster design, and it's something that is like close to humans but not quite, was some of the most unsettling horror design, and that's taking the familiar but making it unfamiliar. That was our last question there, and I just want to like thank the account Video Game Journalist again, like for sending this over. This was like a pretty fun thought exercise. I don't know how you felt about it, Joe.
Yeah,
but
I really
enjoyed.
Yeah, when you sent the questions to me, I was like, oh dang, we might have to do a little research. But then I was like typing it up. I'm like, this is kind of fun. just putting our thoughts down and stuff. And I enjoyed it. I had a good time with this. So I want to say thank you.
Yeah. They also drew us an awesome photo of Link crying. Yeah.
A link to the PTSD, I think, was the caption title. I thought I was like, whoa, okay. That's pretty cute.
I appreciated that. I don't know how you're feeling. I think we're probably closing around 40 plus minutes right now.
We could quickly, I guess, just visit you've been playing Elden Ring.
Yeah. So I just real quick, I'm making my way through Shadow of the Erdtree, Elden Ring. I'm at the Mesmer fight right now, who's like this fire knight dude. The lore is always so confusing to me. I am not sure exactly what's going on. I know this is like some Bizarro World version of Elden Ring's lore where there's certain people who are still alive. I'm just not sure. I know there's like alternatives to certain bosses or something in this one, so I don't know what's going on. But I'm loving it. It's been so fun. My Mimic tier is my best friend. I don't care what y'all say.
People were getting on for that. They were just like,
oh yeah.
But you know what?
Hate that.
Play the game like you want to. I mean, there's no. I mean, who's like? Is there a cop that's gonna come show up to your house like, hey, you're not playing Elden Ring correctly? Like, who cares, man? It's a video game. You know,
they might dox me for using a Mimic tier, man. I don't know these days, but
if they do, we got the support.
Yeah. I'm curious to know. Tell me about whatever you want to talk about. I'm curious to know your thoughts of Zenless Zone Zero, though.
So yeah, let's start with Zenless Zone Zero. So I'm only like 3-4 hours in. I'm chapter 1. I'm having fun with it. I keep talking about like the art, the music. Like I've been listening to like the city music at work because it's pretty chill. So it struck a chord with me. Like I'm enjoying it. It's a gacha game. I'm not the biggest fan of Hoyoverse because gachas aren't really my thing. But like the characters you get, like they're pretty cool. I'm enjoying the game. Honestly, I kind of do recommend it to anyone who's like not a fan of Hoyoverse games. You might like this one actually.
Okay.
Because I know Genshin didn't do it for me, and Honkai Star Rail didn't do it for me. But this game, I don't know if I'll stick with it, forever. But I'm enjoying what I'm playing now.
Because I did like Genshin, and I didn't play Honkai Star Rail. Do you feel like I'm not going to like this one because it's so different from like Genshin?
No, I think you'll be fine. This is more action gameplay. So like Devil May Cry, Bayonetta.
Okay.
And then the early chapters are easier. I keep seeing like discourse online that it's too easy. And then other people are like, you just haven't gotten far enough. Right. So I can't really say much about the difficulty. Because I'm still chapter 1 and it's hard to find any playtime because I'm playing other games as well and then working or getting things together. But I say give it a shot, man. I mean, we can always do an episode on it as well.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, I think I heard somebody say it's like kind of their take on Persona in a way, plus action game, like more action gameplay, but it has the social aspects as well. I don't know. I haven't touched it yet, so I'm not sure how accurate that is.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that either. Maybe I just haven't gotten far enough. I'm still chapter 1, but
okay.
But they also there's a lot of like lore and plot, so get ready to just sit there and be like, what is going on?
Okay, more lore dumps.
Because I was just like, there's tons of lore dumps, and I'm not the biggest like when it comes to like gacha games and stuff. I don't really care for the lore. I'm just like, okay, I just want to do story mode and unlock cool characters. But all right, but yeah, give it a shot. If you do give it a shot, let me know if you need any like there's codes and stuff and. I don't mind giving you tips and tricks on that stuff.
Oh, for sure. Is there like a referral system type thing?
I know you can you can share codes, like kind of like a friend code, but I haven't seen any benefit to that yet. I don't know if there is.
All right. Yeah, just got to make sure that if we share some sort of code that you get all the benefit too. So
yeah, I don't know if that's like implemented yet. Bonus. I'm sure later on, because it's like version 1.0, so maybe down the line. Yeah. So let's see what else. Finished Paper Mario: 1,000-Year Door. I love that game. I never noticed how slow the last 2 chapters are though. And so this time around,
really?
I was like, oh, okay. It's the last chapter or so. And I was like,
you were like ready to be done with it by then?
Yeah. I was like, oh wow, nostalgia really is like, because chapters 1 through like chapter 2, I'm not the biggest fan of, but other than that, I like it. Chapter 6 is like a murder mystery or something. You have to find like. It's kind of like a game Clue. You have to find, because they're trying to like sabotage the train that you're on, so you got to find the culprit. And yeah, it's just, and there's a lot of backtracking in the later chapters. And that kind of kills the pace where you have to like go like there. It's like find this character, right? And it's like, oh, you need to go to this town and then this town and then this town and then this town, and then eventually he goes back to the original town that he's from, right? And that's just a hassle because you're just walking around the world kind of just looking for an NPC, and every time you're looking for him, he's like, oh no, he went the other way, right? It's like your princess is in another castle, right? And which, hey, it's Paper Mario. Maybe they were referencing that, right? Now that I think about it, yeah. But that kind of killed the pace, and then I was ready to be done with it. So the last couple chapters are a little rough, but I still enjoyed it. It's still like a 8, 9 out of 10 for me.
That's a good score.
Yeah. So whenever you're ready, man, just let me know. The copy's there. Have it physical.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I think once I'm done with Shadow of the Erdtree, then I'll probably take you up on that offer. Because right now that's been kind of the main thing that I've been trying to get through. Yeah. But I've definitely been curious. I can't believe I've never played Thousand Year Door too. Like that's wild. Because I had a GameCube, but yeah. Wait, it was on GameCube, right?
Yes, it was on GameCube. Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, I better have my system right for that one.
No, you're good. Yeah.
Was there another? I know you had played Ashen as well. Yeah. Did you still want to?
So still. Yeah, because I'm mindful of the time, but just really quick. So Ashen is like a Souls-like game. There is no leveling up system. So what you do is you complete, it's more objective based. So like a character will be like, hey, go do this, go kill this guy, right? And you'll get stamina or health points, right? And then you use like the ashes, which are your runes or your souls, whatever, to upgrade weapons. So that's how you make yourself stronger. You upgrade weapons and talismans, which are like equipables that are like reduced stamina costs, right? Or more damage or things like that. So it's like there's no leveling up. Right. And I think I was telling you, we were stuck on a dungeon that took like 40 minutes to traverse, but we actually found the shortcuts.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good.
We found shortcuts where you have to like hop over like gaps and whatnot, and then they get chased by like tons of enemies. So the shortcut wasn't easy to do because you could fall and die. So we eventually got through that like Tuesday night. But it's fun. And honestly, like if you have someone to play with, it's a good time. It's no like time. From Software game. Like it really isn't. But it's been nice. And then I've been playing Fall Guys with my siblings like almost every night. I don't even know why we started playing Fall Guys, but like I'm deep into like the battle pass they have. I'm like rank 64 or something right now, and I'm like there's only 70.
Holy crap.
Yeah, dude. And I'm like, and we're just playing like an hour a night, right? And it's like, all right, okay. And it's fun. I mean, it's Fall Guys, right? With people, people you enjoy being with. Yeah, it's a good time.
That sounds like a good time. I know with Ashen, I think they're that game that I previewed during Steam Next Fest, Flintlock. I think it came out. Like it might be coming out soon. Yeah, I think it's this month though. And then another game I previewed during Steam Next Fest also dropped yesterday. It's free to play as well, called Once Human. It's called Once Human. Yeah, that's survival crafting MMORPG. But yeah, that one seemed pretty fun. But yeah, I'm curious. I guess I'm curious to see how the rest of your Ashen playthrough is going to go, and if you guys are going to reach the end. That's cool that it's couch co-op then, right?
You still have to connect online, but I mean we all have like a Switch in the house, so it's not a big deal. And the game was cheap; it was like $10, and I think the DLC is like $2.49. So we might grab the DLC before we go out to Evo.
Just so you guys could like play.
Yeah, just in case if there's any downtime. But yeah, I mean I recommend it. It's like solid like 7, 8. So far.
Cool.
Not too stressful, but yeah. And I think that's it. Unless you want to talk about the Capcom, what was it? Capcom Summer 2024.
Right.
I don't know if you watched that.
I think I caught a couple headline.
It was only like 3 games.
I couldn't quote it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a Dead Rising remake. Kunitsugami, which is like a tower defense kind of Pikmin like, it's weird to describe, type game. And then it was Resident Evil 7 Mac version and on iPhone as well, so you didn't miss too much unless you're a Dead Rising fan.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I think I played the first one, but I'm not like really into it to the point where I have nostalgia for it. That Resident Evil on an iPhone also feels super random to me. Like, who is this for, really? Like,
well, they casually announced Resident Evil 9, didn't they?
Oh yeah, yeah. Was it that day though, or
I think so.
Yeah, it was. I do remember now. Yeah, it was a bigger deal that they had Resident Evil on the iPhone than Resident Evil 9, but that's okay. Cool. Well, yeah, I think that will do it then for this week's episode. Yeah, once again, thank you guys for listening. Shouts out to Video Game Journalist Instagram account. I'm looking forward to seeing the article that you put out with these, or if you use these answers or not. I don't know. Either way, appreciated the questions. Mm-hmm. And yeah, be sure to follow us on socials, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and we'll catch you guys next week. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.